Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome to the second Seiko homage that I've reviewed on the channel so far. Who knew? You might remember the first one, the rather crazily named Steel Magna by Bomb Frog. Once you got past the name, it was a rather ordinary 6105 homage, but a watch that I really enjoyed. We had a great relationship for about 6 months, especially when I took it off the stock leather strap and popped it on one of Uncle Seiko's fantastic and very appropriate waffle straps. We frolicked in the sand together, we swam in the sea together, but all good things come to an end, and I flipped the Bomb Frog earlier on this year. Why would you bother with a Seiko homage, I hear you ask, when you can just buy a Seiko for a couple of $100? Well, a decent 6105 will sting you north of $2,000 and you're probably not going to be inclined to get it wet all that often. So these homages really are valid. Today it's the turn of this one, a 62MAS homage by 54 watches. Now Seiko themselves released an homage to the 62MAS last year, the SLA 017, but that one was priced at $3,500. And if you bought one at the time, good for you, you're probably well into profit. This little watch priced at the much more reasonable price of $250, and if you like it, you'll find a discount code in the description of this video taking it down to $230. And it's a perfectly decent little watch for that price. What I'm going to do today, the usual review, and then I'm going to get it onto a couple of Uncle Seiko straps. They really are fantastic and add authenticity to your homage, if such a thing is even possible. Let's get on with it. So a 62MAS homage by 54 watches, that's a lot of numbers to crunch today, but probably the most important one is the price. $250 less $20 equals $230. I think this is a cracking little watch for that price, a really versatile piece and an absolute strap monster. So we'll get in the box today, do the usual review, and then I'm going to pop in on a couple of random NATOs and then these three from Uncle Seiko a little later on. Comes in a little interesting box today as well. We've got a nice branded polishing cloth and we've got a 2-year international warranty there. Also comes supplied with 2 different coloured waffle style silicone straps. I love it when brands give you a little bit extra without even having to ask for it. And it comes with a spring bar removal tool. This little guy, as mentioned, total strap monster, especially as it has drilled lugs, making that process even easier. So dimensions and specifications, loom shot, wrist shot, a frightening movement accuracy report, wait for that one, and then we'll have the fashion show at the end. So just what is this little watch paying homage to today then? Well, that is the original 62MAS from 1965. Very similar to this one in terms of its dimensions. It was a 37mm, just like this one. That is the SLA 17. That was the watch that I mentioned in the intro, released last year for $3,500. Now, as is the way of things, a lot of these watches gain millimeters over the years, don't we all? That one came in just under 40mm. So in some ways, this little watch is more true to the original than Seiko's own version. So 38mm in diameter if you include the bezel, 37 if you measure from the back, if you like, just looking at the case, 20mm lug width, 14mm thick, just over 14mm thick today, and a lug tip to lug tip of 36. But if you see those drilled lugs, they're at least a millimeter inboard. That means it's kind of microscopic today. We're looking at a 44mm effective lug tip to lug tip. So wears very nicely indeed. Great for guys with slightly smaller wrists or if you just like a slightly smaller watch. This one on the supplied rubber strap weighs in at a mere 85 grams. So definitely lightweight division today. 316L stainless steel on the case, the bezel and the crown today, aluminium bezel insert, and we have got a 120 click unidirectional rotating dive time bezel there. No crown guards because it is vintage style, but we have a screw down crown giving this watch 200 meters of water resistance, actually 50 meters more than the original 62MAS managed. Coin edge bezel as you can see there, and a signed crown, the FF logo for 54 watches. Now a little piece of slightly domed box sapphire crystal today. There is some AR coating on the underside, but always appreciate a piece of sapphire rather than hard licks as you'd get from a Seiko at this price point. Finishing on the case is perfectly decent, just brushing on the lugs there, polishing on the sides, and those all important drilled lug holes there as well.
Case back's quite nice as well, pretty simple there, just advertising the 54 watches logo, automatic stainless steel, 20 atmosphere water resistant, and down the bottom 123 out of 500, so this is actually a limited run edition as well, which is always a bonus. Now the movement in this one, surprise surprise, it's a Seiko NH35, but check that accuracy report. Remarkable, coming in within a second over a month. Now that's mostly in the boxy winders, but I have had this one out and about as mentioned. There's no wonder that so many micro brands choose these little movements. Hack hand wind, 42-hour power reserve, 24 joules, and pretty decent all things considered. And the supplied straps are perfectly decent as well. Now very flexible, this kind of waffle style but made of a softer rubber compound rather than a harder one. Going to be less durable but going to be very comfortable on the wrist, and a nice little all brushed 54 buckle and tang there as well. Lume today though is okay rather than amazing. You know, there's plenty of it, nice big markers and plenty of lume on the hands, but it's not all that well applied. If you look at the index at 12 o'clock there, perhaps you can notice some inconsistencies, but again, pretty decent at the price point. But I think this little watch begins to shine when you get it on the wrist. Short lug to lug, 37mm diameter. I've got a 7-inch wrist, but I prefer slightly smaller pieces, so I've really been enjoying this one. As mentioned, the supplied rubber straps are perfectly decent, if a little bit long. Now 7-inch wrist, I've got the second smallest hole engaged to keep it nice and tight. I've been wearing this one riding my bike actually. It's pretty good as a kind of sports and activity watch as a consequence of the straps. If you've got a smaller wrist though, which seems sensible given the 38mm dimensions, you're probably going to want to swap this strap out for something giving you a little bit more options, a little more flexibility. You've only got one more notch there. Not great if you've got 6.5 inches or smaller. So easy to swap the strap over though, thanks to those small lugs. And I guess this one very useful if you are going to pop it on a wetsuit. You can use the extra length of that rubber. But there you are, two look for the price of one straight out the box. But let's get it on those NATOs. There it is on a Monkey Swag Dirty Bond. I'm not massively into NATO straps personally, but something this small, I think you can get away with it without adding too much unnecessary bulk to the watch. Looks good on this forest green one from Moose Straps as well, adding a nice little bit of colour to an otherwise fairly plain aesthetic. But Uncle Seiko's range really are the ones that match this watch's aesthetic and character best for me. This is the old waffle off the bomb frog. The strap lasted longer than the watch did in my collection anyway. I think it's found a new home on this little 54. Looks good on the Tropic as well. Not cheap, these Uncle Seiko straps at $40, and there's no need to spend it. There's nothing wrong with the two straps supplied, but I think this little watch deserves an extra investment. Very versatile little piece. You'd do well to spend an extra 40 on one of these, just taking it up a notch. Not too many complaints about this one then. I mentioned the lume, the straps being slightly long. The dial is a little bit shiny. I know I've got the studio lights happening here today, but sometimes in bright conditions there's a bit of a sheen to it. It's not super legible in bright sunshine, but you know, I'm nitpicking, I'm niggling this one for $230. I think it's a thoroughly decent little watch. Very simple aesthetic, but then again, that's the whole point. It's copying something from the 1960s, almost exactly, and I think it does a decent job of it.
So there you have it, a thoroughly decent little watch from 54. Pop it on one of Uncle Seiko's matching Tropic or Waffle straps and you've got something that looks like it came straight out of the 1960s for under $300. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.